Any additions to the agenda? Jason, did you have a amendment?
I'd like to amend 2.2.
Okay. So everyone here will do 2.2B. We'll move it up to right after 2. We'll do it the first thing after items for discussion. Any other additions or amendments? A mover? Amber moved. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll go with adoption of the minutes. November 7th, 2017, regular council meeting minutes.
Those, Mr. Chairman.
Ben has moved. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move to 2.2B. Mistakis Institute request for decision. There was a bit of a package associated with that too. Is there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Tom. And you got to do it again twice
There you go.
to warm it up.
Yeah, sorry about that. This is just sort of like the macaque, I sort of read through it. This is in conjunction with the existing bird blenders in Wintering Hills. Like, you guys are going to have a difficult time with me the whole time, because this is 16th century technology, in my opinion. So, I just, it's not something that I can't bet my life on tomorrow, what we're going to get out of it. So I have no idea what the amount of wind power that is going to be generated tomorrow from any one given day, because we do not control the wind. I just have concerns about.
Okay, a little bit of history you would like?
Yes, please.
Alyssa? Hi, good morning. Okay, could you give us a little bit of a history or why we're going through the Mistakis Institute for our new council members?
Okay, I can. And so Russ is the better person to speak to this, but he's away at IST today for the Ag Fieldman, I guess. So I have to apologize. I'm a little unfamiliar, a little bit last minute here this morning, but so the history with the Mistakis was interested in running the project. I guess it was their idea. So that's why the Mistakis Institute, they came forward to us, interested in developing tools for municipalities. I think they saw a gap in available information. And so came forward to Wheatland County. We just showed interest in it. I wasn't in council when they came to present before, but were you? No. Anybody here? No. That's what I know, I guess, is that there was a gap in information and they had wanted to find a municipality to pilot, essentially, so.
Okay. Angie, did you want to add anything?
Yes, I wasn't in council, or I don't recall being in council. It was the beginning of the time I started here at Wheatland County. But what I know about the Mistakis is they're a research organisation. So they try and come up with policies and plans to help municipalities move forward with a variety of innovative or creative or incentivize ways to help counties from a multitude of different directions, usually surrounding some level of sustainability or green initiatives, etc. So what they do is they do go out to a number of municipalities and look for them to host various projects, or, you know, at a very minimized cost to that municipality. And those projects are undertaken within that municipality. That information is then put back together in project reports, and policies are developed, and then given out to municipalities around Alberta, etc. So it really can be seen as a very good thing for Wheatland County to be a host for one of these projects, but it doesn't mean that you're mandated to do anything like that.
Okay. When Mistacus come out, we had a presentation in the room, and we had some ratepayers attended. And I guess the difference, not I guess, I know the difference is when you get an oil property or an oil well or pipeline come onto your property, we have the Alberta environment. They dictate what the environmental cleanup costs are, everything like that. With the wind and solar, when they come on, the ratepayers have no support from the province. This is entirely up to you to make sure you have cleanup in your leases. If you have, all that has to be taken care of by the individual leaseholder. And that was the idea of getting somebody here to help us come up with, make sure you get all your I's dotted and T's crossed, and help our ratepayers come up with a good contract, I guess, or a lease agreement. Or, does that answer your question, Tom?
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I read through the presentation there the other night, because there is a neighbor in my division, Margaret Galway. She has an issue. There's a proposed project on the other side of the road from her, and there are no concerns in this presentation of the adjacent landowners. And that's, I mean, people, I wouldn't want to live beside this big plant and look at it every day when you're doing dishes and look out your window. I mean, and there's not any really good solutions for covering up the viewing. I mean, even if they were to put up a wall, who wants to look at a wall? I mean, that's what it comes down to. I wouldn't want to live beside it. So, I mean, we just have to make sure that the adjacent landowners' concerns are heard. And as far as I can see, it's not on this, so.
Okay.
So just to add, oh, go ahead.
Just a comment, you gotta remember that all the wind generation power we've got so far out in Wintering Hills, all those landowners signed up for it, every one of them. Like, there was a couple that didn't, and this new one that's coming, that may be coming on, they've all signed up for that, they've all agreed to it. There's, I've got an article here that comes out of the States that, you're right, we need some kind of idea of what it costs to build these things, what it costs to, not so much to build them, I should say, it costs to reclaim the sites, and they're running into that in the States now. Like, some places, it's costing millions of dollars to reclaim where these things have been sitting, and some of that's falling back on to the landowner because there's no protection from the government. That's what we're looking at here. As far as the wind power, it's all about money, and here's just something I've had here. A 2 megawatt windmill contains 260 tons of steel. It requires 170 tons of coking coal and 300 tons of iron ore, all mined, transported, and produced by hydrocarbons. And at the end of it, it says a windmill could spin until it falls apart and never generate as much energy as was invested to build it. So it's all about the government and energy and money. It doesn't do what they say, and they run at about 30% efficiency. So, but they're here, and the landowners are buying into it. We need something in place to help protect them, because in 25, 30 years, some of them are going to be stuck with the reclamation costs, and it's not going to be pretty.
So if it helps, what I know of the Mistacus study, so the kind of the preliminary part that we've already funded was a survey to find out what tools municipalities could use for exactly what Ben just talked about. What they came up with was this idea of least conflict areas. So when wind and solar are going in, they're going in on one of two places. It's agricultural land or it's ecological lands. in my mind, that's what the county kind of divides itself out into. Agricultural land has high value for agriculture. We don't necessarily want wind and solar going on ag land. But there are all kinds of concerns with things like native grassland and wetlands and all those issues as well. So what Mistakis is trying to do is put together a study that takes into account kind of the scientific pieces or the uses of the land as they are, as well as the social pieces. So like Jason, you mentioned neighbors and kind of issues that come with land use there. So what Mistakis is trying to do is, but in my understanding, is make a map that municipalities can use to direct wind and solar developments to the places where they'd be best, I guess where the best land use would be. That's my understanding of it. The value in doing a pilot is right now, if we were to be chosen as a municipality for a pilot, this kind of study would cost us tens of thousands of dollars to have done. We would have it done for as a much cheaper option and be contributing to this kind of work that hasn't been done in Alberta to date. So if that helps.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I understand why it's important to pilot these. I just don't like the last part of the recommended motion. I don't like how it says that we agree to participate if requested to do so. I think we'll think about it if they want us to, but I don't think we should set anything in stone right now if we don't know the exact project or where it's going to be or anything like that. We have to decide when they present that to us.
Has there been any talk about what the project has been going to encompass, or?
Yeah, so that least conflicts land piece that I just talked about so Russ has written here at the back, a least conflicts lands process will be the next phase of the project, depending on the ability of Mistakis to secure funding. So I think, and I remember Russ talking about his wording in that piece. So to agree to participate as one of the pilot municipalities, but the reason we haven't been formally requested is because they don't have the funding from all of the other avenues secured yet. So they're kind of waiting to make sure they get the funding, and what they're trying to do is just make sure they've got the municipality on board as well, I think. So
If their study goes ahead, and if it goes ahead in Wheatland County, it would involve some of our staff time too, I'm thinking. And we would have like our fingers right on it from the get-go. And correct me if I'm wrong, go ahead, Angie.
One thing that's just occurred to me that may be beneficial for us that comes out of this project, if we are chosen to participate, is it could really help us with the municipal development plan, Wheatland County's municipal development plan, because we have to open that up in 2018 to do a full review. And one of the things the Planning and Development Department and Russ's department are struggling with is when applicants do come in, where do we suggest that they do that in the county? Or if they come in and they already say, we have a piece of land and this is what we want to do on it, we don't know enough right now to provide a full recommendation to council or MPC as to whether we think that's a good thing or a bad thing. Yes, we absolutely are looking at the issues with the adjacents because that has come up in conversation, but this kind of material would help us, I think, when we do open up the municipal development plan, or help you as to whether you feel that this is a good use of land within the county or not a good use of land within the county, even though we know the province is starting to push all kinds of green initiatives, energy, etc. Really, it's still down to the county to determine whether you feel that this is the correct use for your lands, etc. So any information we can gather over the next few months or year, I think is going to be really important.
Okay. And having said that too, when this plan is done, council still has to accept it. And council decides what they're going to do with it. If an application comes in, even if we have the plan, it still has to come to council, and we deliberate it and make sure the setbacks and neighbors are happy and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't tie our hands in any way. It's just another tool to make sure we're looking at everything, is what I'm getting out of it. Ben?
And through the chair, the other thing is too, that if we go ahead with this and we agree to participate, we get a member on the committee that deals with it. So somebody sitting there representing our interests and what's going on here currently. So it's a, I think it's a cheap way to get in on the ground floor of what's going on with them and trying to figure out a way to deal with them under our, as you said, under our municipal development.
Is there any other questions, or that answer your questions, Jason? Okay. Any other questions or concerns? Council's wishes?
I'll move that we go with the, accept the November 15th correspondence from the Mystica Institute as information, and that Wheatland County agreed to participate as one of the pilot municipalities if requested to do so.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, we'll go back up to unfinished business. We have September 19th correspondence. It's in the package, 2.1A. Thanks for coming in. Have we gotten any requests from any community groups that want these buildings?
Mr. Chairman, at this point, I've not received any formal requests from any community groups. I have received a number of people in the community of Gleason that had requested that the county seriously look at the building for a number of different options. And that's all I've received to date, so.
Okay. Any questions? Or Amber? My mic isn't. Well, you have to push it again, I'm thinking. Is there a battery in it? We'll find you one. Ben will find you one. Yeah.
That's right.
There's a joke there somewhere.
That's called passing the buck.
Hey. You want a knife to go down in there and pry it out?
We don't need
Speaking to residents in Gleason, there is I'd say a high percentage of people there that have lots of different ideas of what might be able to be done with the school. Some people have had ideas around, like, some of them I don't think are necessarily feasible or sustainable, but some of them were, apparently in the past, RCMP have helped coordinate like a recreation program for youth in the community. And so there was some discussion amongst some of the community about whether they could access the gym and that type of thing. Speaking with Alan, it sounds like we would need to do like an assessment of the building and that kind of thing. And I'm not sure what the cost would look like, but I would, sorry. On behalf of Gleason, I would like us to look at the possibility of it and just see if it is feasible, what the cost would be involved, and what type of uses we could consider for Gleason School.
Any other questions or comments? Ben?
I think, I know Hazard, the council in Hazard turned it down. And I know when I was still on the board, when they were looking at these, and it's probably gone up since then, the cost of running these was about $110,000 or $120,000 a year to keep the lights and the power on. So for each one of them, each one is a little, Standard was the highest, Gleason was next, and Hazard under that. So you're looking at quite a cost to keep them going. The problem, and I like the idea of not letting the land go. I'm not so crazy about the building, because once you move in there and change the use of the building, the coding all comes into, I don't know how the province looks at that, But I know once you change the use of the building, it all has to go through that process, and it may be more than what the building's worth. Sometimes it's cheaper with those older ones in the condition they're in to knock them down and put a new building in place. But I like the idea of having the gyms in those buildings, and I think it's worth looking into, having our staff go out and do a mechanical, a physical check of the buildings and find out exactly what's wrong with them. I know the one in Hazard needs a new roof. That's a fairly expensive cost. Well, it's stupid if they're not going to use it for anything to put the money into fixing the roof, right? So I think we need, before we do that, I think we need to send them a letter saying that there's some interest, but we want our staff to go in there and do a physical, mechanical inspection before we make any decisions.
Okay, any other, Scott?
I think these big buildings, especially the age, what's inside them, they need a total assessment. And like you said, a use for a day or a week of a day or 3 days, you still have to heat that building regardless whether anybody's in there. And they're huge areas. They don't just heat and cool fast. And it's a big, I used to look after community halls, so I understand. Like the amount of energy that it takes to keep it up for a single use is really, you have to look at that. Sometimes, like I said, it's cheaper to build a new facility than operate an older one. So we should definitely look in that.
Have we heard if there is any of that reclamation funding that is available? That we talked about at the municipal partnership, the
I think
200,000?
that was demolition funding they were talking about, yeah. I haven't heard anything on that.
I have not looked into it, but I can certainly contact the school board, and if there's
Yeah.
interest, then I can ask if there is funding available for us to do the review. And if not, I can bring back a request for decision to get the funding to do the review. We do have the assessments that were done, I think about 7 or 8 years ago, that do show issues like Councillor Armstrong mentioned with the roof and other concerns, but there's not been a more recent one done, I don't think, since about 7 or 8 years ago.
Those assessments that were done a few years ago, did they include any of what the building's made out of? Like, is there any asbestos and stuff in it? Okay. Because that's, if we have to knock down half the building, it's nice to know what you're dealing with before.
And I've provided those before, a couple of years ago, I think I brought those into council when we knew that they were closing. So we've got that information we can bring back to council as well. But
Okay.
You got to remember too, through the chair, that in smaller areas like Hazard and Gleason, even Standard, I'm supposing, when they decide to use those buildings for community use and rent out office space in it for members, a lot of those communities have already got that space rented out, so it may be a plus in one area, but it's a deficit in another if some business is renting space out too. I know that'll happen in Hazard if they move some of the businesses around to occupy, to take up the usable space in the school, it'll be a detriment to some of the other businesses.
Tom?
Just a question on the assessment, like to do this work. Do we have a cost figure involved? Because a building that's 7 years old didn't get better, so it's only going to get worse, so.
I don't have a cost figure right now, but what I can do is bring back a request for decision on December 19th with some of those numbers. We just did assessments on Carsland and Gleason community facilities 2 years ago, so we have a number of those costs, but to sit down and take a look at it and also talk to Golden Hill School Division about accessing funding to do that.
Okay.
We're going to have to deal with these buildings eventually because Golden Hills won't. It'll be pain in the ass for the ratepayers to look at it every day. So, I mean, either get ahead of the problem or you let it become a problem. So that's where I stand.
Any other questions?
Through the chair, if it becomes an issue in a community, it's still the property of the school board and they're responsible for it. So if it becomes an issue of safety or some other problem, they're the ones that have to do the demolition. That's what they're trying to get out of. So
Okay. Alan?
Yeah, so the first right of refusal, I guess, lands with the municipality because we owned the land originally. We develop those sites. We don't own it now, but we did originally. The second opportunity is they may sell it to a community group for $1. And I think that's some of the concern that I've heard in Gleason in particular, is that they're concerned that some private company is going to profit on this operation, so.
Okay. Amber?
If I could just add to the request to present to council, if we could also have some kind of an idea of like an operations budget if we were to take it over. I know that might be challenging.
Okay.
I can maybe put some scenarios together, whether it would operate as a gym or whether it would operate as like a fitness area. Those are some of the things that I heard in Gleason that could be used for. Obviously, a community hall or a senior center may not be necessarily required in Gleason or Hazard because they already have good facilities there. So it's limited use, but I can put some suggestions forward and maybe some rough numbers for sure.
Okay. I know in other communities like Rocky Ford, they've made good use of old schools too, so. Scott?
And further to Mr. Parkin's comment there, if the change of use comes, it would still have to come to us if it's within our boundaries to reapply to redesignation to the use, so we could have some hands in that too as well, right?
Okay, any other questions?
So that's a good point. So both of these facilities are in Wheatland County. The school in Hazard is not in the village of Hazard. It's physically in Wheatland County, just so you know.
Glenn, if you don't mind me asking, what are they doing with the school in Rockford?
That's the hall, and Rocky Ford is a school, was a school.
But do you know what, because the town bought the school, do you know what they're doing?
No, I mean, another school, St. Rita's. The community acquired that back in early 80s.
But do you have an idea what they're doing with the school that they just bought?
I think they have a zoning bylaw. Maybe it was coming up or soon anyway. Ellen, you've got any ideas?
Yeah, I think one of the, and I don't know if it was Rockford or Standard, but I think they were maybe looking at an art type gallery or display area. And a business incubator was another opportunity that could be done in Gleason. So it may not be one particular use in the building, because they're pretty big buildings for one, like a fitness center. You wouldn't need that big a building per se. So I think you'd have to look at multiple uses. So Gleason could be business space for small business to start up, an opportunity for fitness area, a gymnasium perhaps use, and then maybe do something like an art gallery type museum. Particularly in Gleason, I think it would be beneficial, but those are just thoughts. They're all just thoughts. So,
Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
So did did that group that Rocky Ford talked, did they come out and talk to Rocky Ford, did they go away, or are they still interested in turning that into a, I call it a hippie commune where they grow and self-sustaining and grow their own food and build their own housing and that
I
kind of
heard
stuff?
they've changed their mind.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
No, the idea they had was good.
So if you have enough information to prepare a request?
Yeah, I think I can put together a request for decision, keeping in mind that there's all kinds of different opportunities. And I think at some point, if we move forward on this, the next step would be an open house and community engagement.
Right.
And I think the community, no matter what council decides, whether you decide to take it on or not, I think that needs to happen at some point anyway, in both communities.
Even if it goes to the community or a private individual, they still have to come here and get the zoning changed and whatnot.
What's happening with the playground? In
Part of the
all schools?
property, I imagine.
That's part of the property, so from my understanding, they would be decommissioned or disposed of at some fashion, so.
Okay. So you can just, you don't need a motion to prepare that request for decision? So is there anything else? Any other ideas? Or we'll just move on then. Okay. Request for decision, metal fabrication, 2.2A. Any questions?
No questions, but I know I questioned some of the issues around it when Chris Nelson brought it to us, and I talked to him for a bit at the, that environmental, or that, that ag forum that we had in Strathmore. And my questions were answered, so I don't have an issue with it anymore. I think it might work. I'm fine with it.
Tom?
I think anytime we can get some information, like, I think going forward, as a council, there's gonna be more and more of these requests coming forward. And if we can get one of these under our belt and see if there's some actual, something we can actually benefit from, I think that is a good thing.
Any other questions? Council's wishes. Jason?
I move that council approves funding of $3,000 to support the metal fabrication industry labor market partnership in the region to be funded from economic development budget.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Reeves report on the server. Any questions? Just like to add, over the weekend, we went to Medicine Hat, did that Munis 101. I was hesitant to go in the first place, but I'm really glad I went, and I'm thinking for the new counselors that went, the interaction between them and myself, it really brought out some of the points that sometimes I gloss over too. So yeah, as a group, it was beneficial. If there's no other questions, I'll move my report. All in favor? Carried. Deputy Reeves report on the server also. Any questions? Anything you want to elaborate on, Scott?
Similar to you, all the stuff that we go to, and when you get an opportunity to go with the existing council members, the networking really helps, and you get to discuss things like we did at Muni 101. You get lots of different ideas. It gives you a lot of opportunity to work together. So.
Do you remove your report?
Yes, I'll move my report.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Division 1 Councillor report. Want to elaborate on anything, Jason? Or?
Oh, I'm good.
Yeah, can you explain the diagram?
I would just ask if he knows how to type.
That looks really nice. Yeah, I move my report.
Well, I understand the diagrams. I was there. I'm still hoping we can get something like that going on at Severn Dam there, going down. See? Yeah.
I left out the picture of the Hutterite, so you guys are lucky.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Division 2 Councillor report. Anything you want to elaborate on, Amber?
Not unless anyone has any questions. I move that my reports be accepted as presented.
Okay, thanks. Any questions? Ben?
Yeah, just one question on that, Alberta Libraries, when their deficit in their GST and they're appealing that, where are they gonna get the money if they lose their appeal?
I'm not certain, so that's not actually Marigold, like the board that I was sitting on, but it's their, like, I think the provincial body possibly. I'm not sure where. I believe they did say that they have a good reserve, and so they might be able to finance it through that, but I'm not sure.
Question to Alan then, through the chair. Is that not a provincial body? Are they not exempt from GST? What's the issue there? Or is that something that's going to come down the pike to other volunteer groups or whatever you want to call them?
I don't know the details on it, Councillor Armstrong. I could assume by the way it's presented is that they were reassessed and they obviously didn't submit their GST remissions. Because you have to submit and then you get credited back. So maybe they didn't submit on an audit review. I would assume that's what it is. So I don't know. I can look into it a little bit more if that's council's wishes.
Well, personally, I wouldn't mind knowing if that's what it is, that's fine. But if it's something else and a kind of something that may be coming down the pike to some of these other community groups or nonprofit organizations, that there's something else going on that we don't know about.
I know what the lodge at Wheatland Housing Management, we've lost our status as a municipal organization and can't collect our GST back. We filed last year a GST report and we had a big spike in what we get back because we spent 800 and some thousand on a sprinkler system that was grant money. It triggered an audit. The auditors come in and they're not convinced that we're a municipal organization. Our auditors are looking and working hard at it, and I think they're making a little bit of headroom, but they're looking for letters from 1980 or something that I'm sure they're not going to find, but I don't know what's going on. It's the auditors for us, is the GST auditors from CRA. So, yeah, they're working slowly through that. I don't know if this is anyway the same, but it's just part of. And I know FCSS, we had trouble there a few years ago too with GST, but I think that got all straightened out. Business as, yeah. Keep us informed if you can, okay? Any other questions? Amber moved her report. All in favor? Carried. The Division 3 Councillor report. Want to elaborate on anything?
There was one from the handy bus meeting I had mentioned to some of you before. There was a concern that some of the funding, the Wheatland Housing wants to have their own handy bus, and there was a concern that ratepayers would be, that they thought that the county was funding this handy bus, so they thought that they were funding, ratepayers would be funding both vehicles, and that it were kind of, in a sense, double dipping. But after, like, reading through the letter, I think I'll just take this back and let them inform them that they're not being, that Wheatland Housing is not having the Wheatland County fund their handy bus. I think it was a misunderstanding.
Okay.
Is there any questions?
Would you like me to go to the meeting from the lodge's point of view to explain it or not?
Sure.
If you
Yeah.
want.
Yep.
Because following your report, there's a letter there. That's the letter we sent to the
Yeah.
to the handy bus before your meeting even, yeah. I don't know where they got that idea
It would be good to
from.
get it all straightened out right.
Yeah,
right
get
at
it
the
straightened
beginning.
out sooner than later.
Mhm.
You moved her
Oh, I
report.
moved that. Move
Is there
you
any
accept my report.
questions? All in favor? Carried, thanks. Division 4, Councillor report.
Just a couple of things. Went to the Rural Prosperity Initiative. Very educational. We have to somehow figure out a way to get more producers involved. Like, we need to get the farmers and the ranchers, because some of these ideas are really good, but there's no, there's going to be a step lacking in being able to get this information, because some of these ideas make sense, but it's going to be, bottom line, it's going to have to be the producer that gets on board with this, and that's going to be, we have to do some thinking about how to do that if we open up these, if we continue with these rural initiatives and open them up more to the public. I'm not like, it'd be better, I think it'd sort of be better on a, if we could somehow make it more of a trade show and provide free coffee and donuts because farmers like that. So, so that's the rural initiative. And on the Wheatland Regional Partnership, the main part of that I drew from it is the town of Strathmore is trying to figure out a way to get more efficiency out of their policing. And the bottom line, it's going to cost the county money. And it definitely benefits me, doesn't benefit Ben and Glenn and Jason, because this is definitely going to affect the west side of the county. But we'll have to sit down and have meetings with the town of Strathmore and hash this out, because Strathmore has a big hammer that if they ever play it, which is they can make it a standalone detachment. So of the 24 police officers or RCMP officers that are in the detachment, 16 will do nothing but police the town of Strathmore, because the town of Strathmore pays for 16 of these police officers. So they pay for an inordinate amount of the policing. And the problem is, we're going to have to also figure out a way to get Rocky View involved, because our detachment in Strathmore polices Langdon and polices Conridge, because Chestermere is a standalone division. Chestermere RCMP do nothing but Chestermere. So we're going to have a follow-up meeting, and we should do this sooner than later, because we have to show to the town of Strathmore that we have good faith in this. So that's it, and I move that my committee reports be accepted.
Information. Any questions? Ellen?
Just wanted to make one comment. Staff Sergeant O'Dwyer is going to be here at 10 o'clock, and he's going to talk about a policing, but you can ask him about the watch clerk. But on January 9th, we have all the RCMP sergeants and staff sergeants coming in, because what affects Strathmore may also be something that may be useful in Gleason, right? So they'll all come in, and you'll get an opportunity to talk to them about their staff loads and all that stuff. So January 9th, it's already been booked at 1 o'clock. So that'll be, so you get an opportunity to speak to all of them at the same time. So you can certainly ask Kevin, Staff Sergeant O'Dwyer today about it if you have time, but that's when the opportunity will be there. So, okay.
This meeting on the 9th, when we get all the staff sergeants come in, I don't know, if we're talking about Strathmore and their staffing levels in the town of Strathmore, would it be something we can invite one of the staff members from Strathmore to come listen to that presentation? Okay. So they understand our position too. Okay, any other questions for Tom? Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry, not really directed at
Okay.
Tom. Would we be able to get the supervisor, desk clerk as well, to see how much load they actually get off?
Staff sergeants and sergeants for the detachments will know the workload. Okay, we'll be able to tell you guys that. And also you can ask them opportunities on rural crime and where they're at with that too. So it's got a number of different uses. We had all the staff sergeants come in a year or so ago and talk to council. So it's not just one item, I guess, but that's an opportunity to talk about this particular item as well. So.
How they get along and share, yeah. Ben?
If, excuse me, if this is gonna come up when all the staff sergeants are in here, would it be reasonable to invite the mayors of the 3 small villages to come in and listen in on that also?
Okay. Any other comments? Questions? All in favor? Carried. And Division 7, Council report.
It's on the server if there's any questions. If there's not, I'll move my report.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Staff reports. CAO report. Any questions? Council's wishes. Okay. Amber's moved. No questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, corporate and financial services report. Any questions?
I'll move the, I'll move the corporate and financial service report as information.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Wow. Carried. Thank you. Request for decision. Request for refund property tax roll 7359102. Page 200. Any questions? Jason?
I approve that council, I move that council approve the refund of credit in the amount of $1,525 and 53 cents on property tax roll number 7359102.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, tax agreements.
I'll move that staff proceed with the tax agreements with the owners of the properties for which tax notification was placed on their property in 2017.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, ratepayer request, reversal of tax penalties. Page 205. Donna?
I move that council approve the reversal of tax penalties in the amount of $52.25 on property tax roll. Oh. Oh, not approving. Mm. Mm.
The
It was just
recommended
a question,
action, or-
because when you were reading it, you didn't put not in there, you just,
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay.
My glass, I got these stupid glasses on. That council not approve the reversal of tax penalties in the amount of $52.25 on property tax rolls.
Okay, any questions?
I do have a question. I agree with the motion, but I think there is something to look at here, because we had the same problem, like us. We had multiple parcels of land that we paid on time, or so we thought, and then we get calls saying you still owe 50 cents or $1, and you're like, yeah. When you go in to pay and they tell you you paid it all, and then a week later, they tell you you haven't. I just think there's something to fix there. So,
Okay. I know with new way we're handing out our, okay, Brian, you want to answer that?
Yes, so through the chair, in 2016, there was a report done on the Financial and Corporate Services Department, which identified various weaknesses in the tax and assessment throughout the department. So when I came on board after that report was done, some of the issues that I had to attempt to resolve were a lot of the financial reporting issues that we had, and the taxes and the notices that we sent out. So one item that we found was that in prior years with our legacy system, we were kind of one out of very few municipalities in Alberta that sent out a combined a notice that had every single parcel and every single amount that was owing on the sheet on one page. So with the transition to the new software that we have, we could only provide one sheet or one assessment notice per roll. We did provide a summary page for any property owners that had any rolls or owned any properties in excess of 15. We did take away from this past year, and we did realize that perhaps that number was too high. So in 2018, we're going to send out a summary page with anyone that owns in excess of 5 roll numbers. So in that summary page, the total that ratepayer would owe would be at the bottom. So there were some issues with the notices that were sent out, not the notices themselves, but the communication on the amounts that we're owing. So with that, in 2017, we learned some lessons. For the most part, there were some complaints about the notices, but they were mostly limited.
Okay, any other, Amber?
What would be the cost involved to send out a summary sheet to anybody that owns multiple properties, like just more than one?
Not very much. So realistically, whatever it would be to print off one summary page. So 1 page of printing. We're already mailing that out, so it would just be included in the already mailed out notice. So no additional postage, just the 1 page of printing. A little bit of resources internally to get that page in there as well, but we'd already kind of anticipated for that as well.
Any other questions?
just to go on the 1 page versus multiple, we own multiple parcels of land in Newell as well, and I think we have 7 there, and we get 1 page, and it's really easy to pay, but we've had trouble a few times here. So I just want to try to make it simpler for those ratepayers to understand what to pay. Like, I don't care if you have to bold it and put it at like twice as big font as everybody else. It just, you have to, like, this is the 3rd year we've had trouble paying. So I mean, and we've never had trouble with Newell. So there's just things maybe we could, just because we were the only, we were one of, you said we weren't, there wasn't many counties that were doing one page. Well, maybe that doesn't mean that we have to change, right? So.
Any other questions? Would it be possible to put a summary page in for any multiple? Instead of 5, we could go down to 2, or?
We definitely could if that's the way council would like to proceed.
Yeah. Is that what something council like, Ben, or?
I don't like the idea, as Jason said, I don't like the idea of putting something out there that's this big and you gotta fold it into 5 envelopes to get it out there. You gotta remember that it's the responsibility of the landowner to make sure that their taxes are paid. And I know I've got multiple lots, and that's the first thing I do when that thing comes through, is make sure every one of them's on that sheet of paper when I'm looking at it. If it isn't, I'm gonna find out where it's at, because I keep a pretty close record on my taxes, because a lot of it's rental. So a lot of it's up to the landowner. They know how much land they got. They know what their payment was last year and the year before that, and it doesn't differ that much. So you be careful what you ask for, because it may be a wheelbarrow coming through the door when you look at some of the sizes of these properties.
Any other comments? Amber?
I was just looking at ways to make the process more clear. I think where the problem was just the transition to the new way of doing it. So I'm not sure if it's necessary to do it on an ongoing basis, but I know that there was just, some people didn't pick up on the change. And then I'm not sure that staff necessarily pointed out the change when they came in, like Jason mentioned, to pay. And so that's what I just heard that from a couple of people.
Through the chair as well, I can also contact our software provider and ask them what the cost would be associated with trying to switch it back to the way the legacy system had it, with multiple roles appearing on one page. And I could bring that information back to council if that's something that you guys would like.
From an accounting standpoint, there was obviously some rationale for changing to the single role per page. Obviously we have to weigh that. I don't know.
Yes, so through the chair, in the corporate services review that was done in April of 2016, it was identified that Wheatland County was one of very few municipalities in Alberta that sent out had the ability to include every role on one page, or multiple pages with the assessment, legal land location, and provide all that information. So the summary page doesn't provide the information that's required under the MGA that we need to let ratepayers know all that information, but it does provide them a clear summary of what the balance that they do owe. So I think part of the reason for switching was to try to get more in line with other municipalities in Alberta. That being said, there has been a significant amount of positive change that occurred during the transition from the legacy system to our new system. That may be one area that we're still kind of evaluating, that administration took an opportunity for mistakes to be corrected. We'll do our best efforts to correct them in 2018 when the new notices are mailed out, but we're also open to any suggestions that council may have for the ratepayers.
Have you got enough suggestions?
Yeah, so suggestions or direction, either way, we're definitely open. If that involves us going back to our software provider to get a quote to see how much something would cost, or anything on our end that we can do to make the life of a ratepayer easier, is what we're trying to do at a reasonable cost.
I think for me, a summary page would be nice with a total on it. Like, you open up the envelope, you got a bunch of papers falling out, and then you're I know what the penalties are, and you're worried, you add them all up. And I've had ratepayers come back to me, and they've even done it here in the office and didn't catch one of them, and even had help with our own staff here, and of course they're faced with the penalty. So a summary page, a total number for me, I think would be something to work off and go backwards from.
Yes, and that we can provide currently without incurring any extra costs, with the exception of printing an extra page. And the amount of work that would cost staff is minimal to what we're trying to accomplish here, is make the process as easy as possible for the ratepayer.
Would it be possible when we come back, when we're setting our budget and getting ready to send out the notices, if you could provide like a sample of what you come up with at that time?
Yes, absolutely. I can provide the summary page that we sent out in prior year, in 2017. I think one item that we definitely can improve on, which we have already committed to doing, is reducing the threshold of that summary page down from 15 to 5. If council would like to go lower than that as well, that's no issue either. We're more than willing to accept direction and proceed with any direction that council provides us.
Okay. Scott?
I like the idea of going the summary page, and if it's easier to go with a software approach for staff time, then maybe the investment made to change that is the best way to go. So I think we should have money or an idea what the costs are in that. And from ending multiples up, I know Ben had mentioned a big wad of paper, but we've already had that where it was 10 or more or 15 or more. So I don't think that really affects that, because that would be the bigger wad of paper, obviously. So yeah, the multiples, and if that was what we had done in the past and we've changed it and we've had issues, we should address that and maybe look at what we did in the past. And if it's different than everybody else, so be it. If we make these problems go away in an easy form, that's what we should do.
Okay. Any other questions? I believe Donna made the motion to accept staff recommendation. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, 10 o'clock. I'm thinking we'll go back. We have a 10 o'clock appointment. I see Sergeant Dwyer is here. Okay. We have an agenda. It's on page 2.3A. We don't have one. It's all yours. Could you use the podium, please, and turn the mic on? That way we can get you recorded. Yeah.
Well, good morning all, and thank you very much for allowing me to come before you and speak to you today. The reason I had requested to come was to talk about the survey that was done by the county last year, and to seek your support in performing a similar survey this coming year, so that we kind of get direction from the public as to how they would like to see their police working in the county. Some of the questions that may have been asked last year aren't relevant this year for the council, and so my hope is that the council could review that, see if there's some other questions that they would like to pose to the communities, and then to take that survey on and put it up on your website and send it out. I know that the results that I received last year, I did share with Drumheller and with Gleason, so that we kind of encompassed all of Wheatland County and made sure that we were getting the desires of Wheatland County out to the 3 policing detachments that look after Wheatland County, and so that we can try to focus on those needs of the community. I found that it's kind of one of the best ways. People will often, when there's anonymity, they will often answer a little bit more than they would if you were sitting there talking to them. They might be a little bit more reserved, but you kind of get a true feel for what the people are looking for when you do it with a survey, and they have the freedom to answer. You're going to get positives, you're going to get negatives, but that's what we want. That's how we know that either we're doing a good job or we're doing a bad job. And so that's what I'm seeking here today.
Okay, do you have a sample of the survey?
Well, I have the one that was done by Wheatland County last year. I didn't print off a whole whack of them because I didn't know, but I can obviously leave this here again. This was the survey that was done last year. I mean, I can go through the questions. Basically, it asks, from the list below, choose the 3 policing priorities that you believe should be the top priorities in Wheatland County. And one of them is major property crimes, impaired driving, illegal drug-related offenses, crimes against persons, family violence, minor property crimes, traffic enforcement, youth engagement, community engagement, or others. And so those are questions that were put forward last year, but are they relevant for this year? And that's something that I think council really needs to look at and say, are these the types of questions that we want them answering, or do we want to have something that is more important to the county that you want to put forward? And so that's where I'm going with this.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Scott.
Is there anything that you would like to see that's not on there that we would recommend back?
Well, obviously, as you all know, we've been having a huge issue with vehicle thefts and additional offenses that are created once these vehicle thefts are committed. Obviously, we have an awful lot of issues with entries into properties. You know, farming communities, often, you know, people aren't home, they're out working somewhere else, and there's nobody around. Your next door neighbor is maybe 2 miles away, so we don't have that that visibility. We're really trying to push Rural Crime Watch, trying to get that program more robust, so that, you know, I always say to people, you know who your neighbor is, and often, you know, people will live on a dead-end road, but they know, you know, their neighbor that's coming down that road. When they're seeing vehicles that are going down those roads that aren't their neighbors, and they don't know that vehicle, those are the times, especially, you know, well, it can be almost any time. A lot of these break-ins are happening during the middle of the day because they know people are often not home. Those are kinds of the things we would like to see pushed. And is Rural Crime Watch important to the people of the community? You know, is that something that we can try to focus our efforts on? Maybe we need to go door to door and say, are you interested in becoming part of Rural Crime Watch? What are the, you know, what are the requirements to become part of Rural Crime Watch? What is this going to entail for that person as far as commitment? Because a lot of people will say, well, I haven't got a lot of time. We're all busy. We don't have an awful lot of time to commit to this. But if we can show them where there's not a large commitment to this, and they're actually looking after helping their own properties, protecting themselves and protecting their neighbors, maybe this is a program that we can really push. So maybe, you know, some of those kinds of things, you know, are they interested in different types of crime reduction issues out there, or potentials? Do they have any ideas? Like, it's funny, well, not funny, but we can come up with all the ideas in the world, and people will say, well, that's dumb, you know, and we're not going to the public and asking what their ideas are. I'd like to go to the public and ask them, what's your idea? What's going to help protect you and your neighbor? What's going to make you feel safer in your homes? So that might be something that we could add.
What are your thoughts? Something relatively new is there's some Facebook groups that are starting up Rural Crime Watch. There's one up by us that identifies basically your blue sign. It's pretty anonymous what happens, but if you say you're going to be away, your neighbors, they all sign in by their blue sign, their municipal address, and people will watch, and if there's issues, they can alert everybody within the group, but it's a very closed group. And I kind of been watching it, and it seems to be really an effective tool, but I don't know what happens if there's an issue, how they proceed with that.
And that's where I would encourage caution, because they're not part of a formal group. We have no idea who these people are that are on this social media, and they may be looking for you to tell them that you're no longer home. because now they're going, great, I know you're not home, I know whose house I'm going to go break into. They haven't had security clearance checks, they're not part of a formal group. We have an awful lot of issues with social media where things can get blown out of proportion and everybody starts to get enraged and upset, where really it's a non-issue, but because social media has built it up, people now are becoming afraid. You know, there's concerns that really aren't warranted, and until we can get out there and say, that's not the case, this is what's actually going on, and people have to appreciate there's some things that we can't report on or that we need to keep from social media. There's very high risk incidences that often happen where we want to make sure that stuff's not getting on social media, because that can also be alerting the bad guy who's watching social media. So social media can be a great thing, but it has to be, you know, watched carefully. So I would rather encourage, instead of, you know, Neighborhood Watch or Rural Crime Watch on social media, I would rather go through the formal process, and then we know exactly who it is that we're dealing with, and we have a level of confidence that they're not the one that's going to go break into your house because you've told them that you're going to be away.
I think a combination of both would be, because I mean, everybody uses their phone, they have them on all the time, they alert you if something happens. If there was a way to, I think some Rural Crime Watch has apps they were talking about bringing, and from the Rural Crime Watch, and then having that through the proper people.
That's correct, and we're actually looking into that now. The way that we broadcast the information out through Rural Crime Watch is quite dated, and we are looking at, I know what one of the last Rural Crime Watch meetings I was at, they're looking at some of those apps and some of the things. Some of the issues that we run into is that some of the, and rural communities are one of them, they don't have like a 3G plan or something of that. They're working off of Wi-Fi. So it works really well when they're at home, but if they don't have a 3G plan, when they're away from home, they won't get that notification. So that was one of the things that we were looking at.
Any other questions?
And it's not as much a question as a comment. Where I'm at, out in that northeast country, Drumheller Bunch does have a Rural Crime Watch. They came out and put signs up, what, a year and a half ago. And I've had one phone call to attend a meeting down in that area for the Rural Crime Watch, and I haven't heard anything from them. I've sent a couple of emails and I haven't got any impact. So I like the idea, but it was out, we had it out there 20, 30 years ago, and it was very active for about 7, 8 years, and then it kind of fell off. But I like the idea of it being in place, but if it's in place and it's not being activated or being used, it's another sign on the highway.
I agree fully. I mean, I know we do have a fairly large Rural Crime Watch group in Rocky View County. I have seen it being active, and we do get a number of calls from them. I'm not aware of a group out on this side in Wheatland County, and so that's why I'm putting that out there. Is this something that the people want? The people have to drive it. The people have to be dedicated to it. We're glad to have the meetings at our office, and I have people who are assigned to work with the Rural Crime Watch groups. But again, it can't be something that's police-driven. If it's police-driven, it won't succeed. It has to be something that the community says, this is important to us, and we're going to take a stake in it, and then we'll gladly work with them. I know the Citizens on Patrol program in Langdon has grown exponentially over this last year, and we're working with them to try to make that community of Langdon a much safer community with their help. But again, it's not something that we have where it's people that have joined who we don't know who they are. They've all come through us, they're all cleared through us, they're all part of the program, so we know who's part of it, and I think that's key.
Any other questions? We have, I think, 5 detachments serving Wheatland County. Is it possible to have one Rural Crime Watch for the whole county under 5 detachments, or do you need 5 different Rural Crime Watches?
I think we can try to work together. I don't think we need, sometimes if we start working in silos, all we do is we just have some information here and some information there. I don't know if Drumheller already has a rural crime watch going. That's great. Let's try to build on that. Kevin Charles is a great commander, and I'm happy to work with him. All I'm looking at for this survey, I guess, is more, let us know what it is that's important to the community so that we can try to build that into our annual performance plan. We come out with 3 target areas that we try to work on, and we try to say, well, what's if there's overlap between Wheatland County, the town of Strathmore, and Rocky View County, we will incorporate that as one and then look at to see what are the priorities of all 3 and come up with our 3 targets. And so as we move forward, again, trying to get the best we can from all of the people, that's how we can try to develop our go forward.
When would you need this information by?
I need it, I think last year we had it mid-March. If we could do the same for this coming year, then that would be great. I know that in the survey last year, I don't know if it was pushed as much or if it seemed like the results were coming back a lot from, I think it was, I can't remember the results exactly, but it was more, there was much more of a drive from 30-year-old females, probably stay-at-home moms, and if we can try to get, and that's great, but if we can get a bigger dynamic of people, and so maybe that might be advertising, that the survey is there, maybe social media can be used for that, to try to indicate that we do have this survey available and that it's on the county website or however it is that you want to do it, and so that we can get a greater demographic and get a really clear picture from everyone as to what it is that they'd like to see their police doing in their county.
Okay.
So when this survey, if the county takes this on, is this information going to be shared with the other detachments?
That's what I did last year. I shared it with Gleason and Drumheller. I'm happy to share it with whomever you wish. It's your survey that you're giving back to the police and saying, this is what's important to us. And so I think we need to get that message out.
So then when the survey goes out, then there needs to be a heading on there that it'll be shared with all the detachments that serve Wheatland County. So otherwise you'll get some in the area where they know that's not here. They'll just throw in the garbage because it's going to the wrong.
Sure.
No, that's good.
This
Staff
is your
got
survey.
any? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I just said, this is your survey.
Yeah.
We just want the information so that we can better serve the county.
Okay. Staff have any concerns or questions or?
No, Mr. Chairman, we strongly believe this is important to do, and we carry through. We had really good success, we felt, last year through social media and all the avenues that we advertise it, and we'll continue to do that diligently. Okay. So, but we ask council to also promote that out in the community to get the input. So.
Okay. So do you have any questions?
Just one question regarding the survey. Is there any way that the survey is going out to all the residents? Is there any way that we can put a check mark on that we as the council could, if they choose to share their email addresses, that we could get that? Is there a possibility of that? Like that they're going to fill out the survey anyhow, and then they just have to check another book that only their email addresses would be shared?
Mr. Chairman, yes, we can do that. We would identify on the form that if you wish to have follow-up information through council or the Wheatland County, please check this and we would follow up. Yeah, we can do that.
I think the anonymity is important because I want people to be truthful and I want them to feel that, they can say whatever it is that they want to say. They're not going to hurt our feelings, because we do get the bad, and the ugly along with that, and we need to know that. I mean, some people are going to be, they have had negative interactions with the police, and so therefore their responses may be geared that way. But we need to hear that and to see what's the flavor out there. What are people really feeling?
I'll put a motion on the floor that council participate in the survey and have the information go out to all the different detachments and whatever we discuss.
Ellen?
Mr. Chairman, we can put together a request for decision for the next meeting, because it's not participating. We're the ones that conducted the survey and give it to provided to the RCMP. So we'll put together a request for decision that'll explain it a little bit further. That's okay.
Okay.
So I don't think a motion is required at this time.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
okay, we don't need a motion for
Decide
that.
to accept Mr. O'Dwyer's presentation.
And I can leave last year's survey with you so that if you have any questions or if you want to have a look at it, to see if you want, if you want to change some of the format or whatever, but I didn't know if you still had a copy, so I thought, well, I'll bring the one that I
I don't
had.
know. I'm thinking they can find one, but if you got one there, it's make it a little easier. Okay, any other questions? Alan?
Just another comment, Mr. Chairman. So if council has any questions that they want put in this survey, please forward them to me and we'll make sure that they get in their request for decision. So, but I need those by the end of the week, end of this week.
Okay, end of this week.
Because it's our survey, so we want to ask the questions that you guys want asked.
Right.
In the manner you want them asked, okay? And then at least we'll put that in the request for decision. These are the questions we're going to put in the survey, okay?
Okay. A motion to accept the presentation as information would be nice. Scott?
I'll make the motion to accept for information, the presentation.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go back to reports. Transportation infrastructure services. Request for decision, transportation infrastructure services report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to defer to Mike Zier to present today to give him some experience.
Okay.
Morning, Council.
Good morning.
So the Transportation and Infrastructure Report is in front of you. I'm able to answer any questions if you have. It's basically an overview of the activities for the month of October. Just a couple items of note. We are pretty much wrapping up the road construction and bridge construction servicing. The crews are all basically all laid off. We are finishing up one bridge file up by Rockyford, just north and west of Rockyford. And once that one's done, all we'll have on hand are the divisional graders and the snowplow operators. So we're wrapping up the season here. It's been a good season. Got a lot of miles done on the road construction and a lot of bridges in place. So it's been a good year. Other item of note, we actually just started starting the mobilization of the, there you go, of the symbiotic, thanks Alan, symbiotic wastewater treatment facility in Rosebud there. So this is the first of a number of structures that's going to be brought on site there. They have a couple more water tanks and a couple more treatment buildings. They're little C-can, nicer than a C-can looking buildings. But I'm quite impressed with the look of this building. I think it'll blend in nicely over the next 6 to 8 months that they're doing the pilot out there. So it should be, speaking with the contractors, it should be in place basically by the middle of the end of this month here. We're looking, with Christmas, we're going to delay the operation, the startup of this until the new year here. So the first couple weeks in January, we should be have all the kinks worked out of it and ready to start treating some wastewater. So exciting to finally see this come on site here. It's been a lot of years we've been working on it, so it'd be good to see the results that come out of this. So, yeah, so other than that, if there's any questions on the report here or anything I can answer.
Anna?
I have a question. Maybe it's not the right time to ask him. Just let me know. With 817 and 24 realignment, and then us going through the industrial planning for Carsland.
Yes.
Where is with the new plans? And I'm getting lots of questions, and that came out of the ASP out of Carsland. Where is the truck traffic going to be guided? Is it going to go all the way to 901 and come back down to the industrial part? Or is it going to cut across? somewhere? Does anybody know?
Yeah.
A lot of ratepayers are asking.
Yeah, through the chair. We've met with Alberta Transportation for numerous years, and we do have a plan right at the moment, but plans can change. With the planning for the new industrial area there, we might need to revisit that whole situation. Right at the moment, they're going to be going down, it won't be a linear access to it. It'll be, I guess you could call it convoluted. There'll be stop signs and turning and that sort of thing. It won't be just a straight drive-off intersection type thing, just to kind of control the industrial traffic. There's many ways of doing that, though. What we want to do is keep the heavy loads off of the old Highway 24 that's going to ultimately become a Wheatland County local road. We don't want all the heavy truck traffic going into Calgary wrecking our road. We would want it to just be, you know, the industrial traffic that's going to our new industrial area. And that's something that we can look at in the future. There's still time. It's not written in stone as such yet. So I think planning and transportation departments are going to have a meeting next week, and probably another one in the new year regarding the development that's potentially happening there.
So is it true there's going to be a traffic circle?
No, the traffic circle has been eliminated.
Okay.
There would be, I believe at the moment it's a T intersection with a stop sign. So it's not as, you know, like I said, it's not as convoluted as what the traffic circle would have been, but it would still minimize the amount of through traffic that are using that road. You know, you'd have to have a reason to go that way.
So would they go past Speargrass or up to the next intersection? And
They would go all the way up, straight up to 901, and then go east or west.
And then the industrial trucks, like let's say going to Pioneer or?
Yeah, they would go through south of Carsland on the existing Highway 24.
On the existing, like past Speargrass, or
Yeah.
up a little further in that
It would be further
small-
north.
A little further
Yeah,
north?
we moved the intersection further north
Yeah.
up to, I don't know if you know where
Where the old,
where the county's old waste dump site was?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's that little cutoff
Across-
road.
across
Yeah,
from
it'd go
Taylor
across
Pit.
that cutoff road.
yeah, which is only about a mile.
Yeah, I think it's, 3/4 or
Yeah.
even half maybe. yeah.
And they'd go all the way up there and then
And it would
across.
just keep going straight onto the existing 24.
I think you made a lot of people really happy right now. Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm thinking too, that next time we have an open house for that area structure plan, it would maybe be nice if we had some transportation there and some pictures of what you're thinking about for the roads, because that was a huge topic. The congestion of traffic, the amount of traffic, and even on the 901 and the
We could
and the
definitely do that.
22.
Would you want someone from Alberta Transportation there, or just Mike or myself?
I don't know, what do you think, Donna?
No, we can invite Jerry Lau.
We can invite him, sure. Why not? And it would be good. Maybe a little bit bigger room next time.
We could
would be
maybe
nice
put some
too.
pressure on as to when it's going to happen too.
Yeah. That was, I thought was an excellent turnout for that ASB. It was a little bit crowded is all, yeah. But we had a lot of good questions.
Yeah, we could definitely make those arrangements.
Okay. Any other questions? Scott?
In regards to the Rosebud pilot program there, if we could have is there an opportunity to have a tour of it once it's operating?
Through the chair, definitely, I think that's in the intent. I was hoping early January we'd all have, I was intending on going out and do a tour. I'm not sure if council would want to set up a separate tour or that sort of thing. I think as we're getting it and as the kinks are worked out of this, I think it'd be interesting to see what the byproduct is and the efficiency of the system. So Yeah, it's not a private system. It's something that I think they're really going to want to promote for the community here, so.
Ellen, you got a?
And Mr. Chairman, the intent was on January 10th, if it's up and running, to do that, because in the afternoon of January 10th, you may recall, we're going to do a tour of a number of different projects and the shops and things like that. So, but if it's not up and running at that time, then we may do it later on. So at this time, it's kind of tentatively on that schedule, so, yeah.
There again, I'm not sure if this is the right time. Just when do we go over the paving schedule? I just got a couple of small concerns, and I just don't know what the protocol is.
Go ahead, Dave.
To the chair, I'm not sure if we have set an exact date to review the, I'm thinking that would be in the new year. I'm prepping for it. Made some adjustments that I see need to be necessary, and Mike and Tom and I are going to sit down, Tom Schultz, and kind of go over it together, and then we'll present it to the council, and you'll be able to put in your own 2 bits at that point in time. So if you want to make yourself a list, then we can deal with it when we all meet.
I know Tom had asked for some maps. They're all on digital form. I know last year we got some paper maps, probably about yay big. Ellen?
Mr. Chairman, we thought we'd do the same thing as we did in other previous years. We'd have a committee of the whole and go through the whole program, if that's okay. So, but now is not the time to do that. There's too many other things that you guys got on your plate. So what we thought is in January. So if you want to set a date, that'd be fantastic on that.
Okay.
For a committee of the whole meeting. If there's any projects in 2018 you have a concern with, you need to bring them up ASAP, because we're starting design of those projects right away. If some of them are already in design phase. So, but if it's 2019 and beyond, then certainly there's time to work on those.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So you're asking for a committee of the whole meeting, if
Yeah.
we could pick a.
Yeah.
So the committee of the whole meeting, we would talk about paving program, road programs, any other things that would take more discussion for sure. I think we had another thing we wanted to talk about at committee of the whole. And if we pick a date, and as time goes, I'll keep adding agenda items. So if you get your calendars out, we'll do that right now. Gosh, I haven't got my meeting days in January yet put in my calendar. Staff got any recommendations?
There is a meeting on January 9th on the Tuesday for the council, and there's a meeting on January 10th, which is ASB in the morning, and then the tour in the afternoon. The following week in January is ASB. And I'm not sure if anybody's going to Grand Prairie. So if no one's going to the ASB in Grand Prairie, then you could do it the following week.
Okay.
We've intentionally left that week open because of ASB. I've got nobody at this point. Nobody's stepped forward in going to Grand Prairie, so.
Yeah, well, somebody should go. It's 15th to the 19th is open. That's the tour week. Yeah. Not the tour week, the convention week.
I would defer to Mr. Churchill to see if he could have the information available and ready for presentation by the 15th of January before I commit to that.
Yes, I could have it ready that week, whatever day works for the rest of the council. We could have it ready on the 15th if the 15th works, or subsequent date to that.
Council's wishes. What day is the tour start? Sorry, I don't have it marked down. 16th. So if anyone's going, you'd have to go up on the 15th. Anyone interested in going up, Ben?
Have the new members been notified also, Barry and? Because if we lose one or two members to that, and not counting Barry and
Rex?
Rex is the other one, yeah, if, not counting them, but if we lose a couple of members of council, then the committee of the whole's kind of a waste of,
Right.
so you need to know that before we set the date. If we set the date and then somebody takes off on us, we're kind of,
Well, we got the 11th too. Is there, can you have it done by the 11th, Dave? No, the tour is the 10th. Okay, 22nd would be better for you then. Would even be better? Oh. Okay. Something on the 30th. I got Bow River down on mine. Is that a phosphorus day? And Farm Tech starts that day. When are you here, Tom? Okay.
Maybe you guys can have a discussion at lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions for Mike or Dave? Motion for the report. Ben? Information, all in favor? Carried. And topic for discussion, tree replacement. I think that was your request, Amber, a tree replacement policy. Do we have anything down?
This just stems from a ratepayer concern about the process for when we have to remove trees, usually due to safety reasons, and just whether or not we have a kind of practice in place where we have a succession plan for trees. So,
Dave?
Through the chair, we have in the past when we've had contract jobs where we would be taking trees down for, like you say, for safety reasons, or thinking back into the past, we had some root issues with the sewer and in Gleason, and we had to remove some of the bigger, older trees. We had in the contract replacement trees going in, and you could probably, if you drive through there, you'll see the smaller, younger trees there. More recently, we have had some discussions with our Ag Services people, staff, to replace trees, but it's been kind of, I guess I could call it informal. We haven't really followed through, and hearing what you're saying, I think we maybe need to set up some sort of a process. And I brought them into it because they have a better understanding of what trees we can grow in the area and what trees aren't going to be issues with our sewer lines, lifting sidewalks, doing damage in the streets once they get older. So we can take that to and have some discussion with Ag Services Board to firm up something that would continue on in the future, like a policy, if you like.
Okay. That's just by way of direction. We don't need a motion for that now, I don't think.
I don't
We'll wait
think
for
so,
you to
no,
bring it back.
unless- yeah.
Okay, Scott?
I would support a program like that. I know City of Calgary definitely has something for boulevard trees, because they have that lifting sidewalk issue, and they've identified several species that do
Yes,
not.
yeah.
I think a lot of municipalities have that. So you take one down, you put one back, and it's the proper one that doesn't wreck infrastructure.
Mike,
Yeah,
you have
that's the
something?
right thing to do, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, we have been researching, since this issue came up a few months ago, a policy in place. We've done a survey of a few other municipalities and are starting to get a kind of a framework in place that may work for our community here. So if council feels we can possibly bring that to another committee of the whole meeting, or the same one that we're looking at for the road program, and present it to the committee there for a review.
Okay,
sometime in the new year.
Put that on the committee of the whole agenda?
Okay.
Okay, okay. Okay, that's it for transportation. Thank you. Agriculture, Community and Protective Services. Request for decision. Report is, starts on what, 209. Any questions? No questions? Motion accepted. Ben?
Comment on the, that the Alberta Care meeting up in Nisku on Friday, and there was a discussion around grain bags, and the fella from Lethbridge, what was his name? I got it here somewhere. Just a minute. It's not here. Anyways, he was talking about the grain bag industry and what they're doing with plastics, and the program that Russell and Sean have set up here and run. He's calling that the Cadillac of programs for what to do with ag plastics. And he was quite complimentary of how they were running it. And we have been requested to have a demonstration at the Newell Land Site during their convention in February for the Alberta Care Convention. So it's kudos to that staff for all they've done for that program, and it's getting all over the province that we're the Cadillac, I guess, now of the system. So it's working good. It's working good.
Alan?
Yeah, that's certainly a success story, and it's attributable to the staff under Angie's direction and Russ's direction for that. I don't know if many of you have heard, watched the TV last night. They talked about Calgary. They got no place for their recyclables now because they can't ship it over to China. They said no more dirty, how did they put it? Dirty recyclables coming from Alberta or Canada. So there may be some pressure for other types of products to go to those types of facilities. I don't know how that would work, but just so you're aware.
Yeah, and just to further to that, it's going to put pressure on Canada and industries in Canada to come up with something, because we were shipping some of that plastic to the States also. And now because of the ban that China has imposed, the States are looking after their own, and if we ship it down there, it has to be 100% clean. If not, we pay the trucking to get it back. So they don't want our plastic down there either, because they're gonna have a hell of a mess of their own. So, and by 2019, it's going into the electronics and into the steels too. So we're gonna have to come up with some onshore ways of dealing with this rather than shipping it off to another country to deal with it. So it's going to get expensive.
Tom?
Have we done any looking into like the viability of building a business in the county? Like the county encouraging, we as a business have to, any business that has to look at what our assets are. And we are close to a big city and we have lots of land. So like a place to take these recyclables, even landfill. Has there been any, like, how do we go about doing a viability study on it? And if the county would do it itself, because then we could set the regulations of what it is. It's just an idea, but how does one go about seeing if it's a feasibility study?
Well, I guess that would be an economic development driver potentially. It may have some other detrimental planning effects, obviously, on the neighbors, but yeah, maybe a viability review of the potential. I don't know who we'd engage for something like that, but we can certainly do some research and bring back some thoughts if that's what you would like in regards to that, for sure.
Because there is a place in Lethbridge that's dealing with all types of plastic. They're making plastic boards, plastic fence posts, plastic, and it's becoming more and more economical. A lot of this stuff, when you set it up and produce it, and this fellow that was talking up at Alberta Care, they're looking at approaching municipalities and seeing if municipalities can use some of this product for, if they get involved with it and use it for their, say, their fencing programs or projects, rather than going out to the public with it, because it's making a municipal. The problem is, a lot of this takes time. I know with our issue with SEWA, part of the issue with SEWA is setting a MRF up that goes along beside it, which is recyclables. You can always get the recyclables. It's what you do with them once you get them, and trying to get industry involved in it to the point where they're producing something that's viable and economical. You're not going to do that in 1 or 2 years. It's going to take 3 to 5 years to get something in place. So it's a long process. But there are people out there looking at doing those type of things. And now that the pressure's on there, the government's going to have to probably step up to the plate a little more than they were before. So that was a problem before. That it was too easy for the government to just put it on a boat and ship it to somebody else to deal with. Now it's coming back to rest in our own backyard, and the Chinese are getting so good at this stuff, and they're getting into recyclables like you wouldn't believe. They've already got the industry, and they're creating the stuff, and they're shipping it over here. So the government has to get involved in if we're going to create our own product, we have to compete against that industry out from overseas too. So it's a long process.
Angie?
Yes, through the chair, my thought was that maybe that's a good topic for you to discuss through the strategic planning session as a larger group, and with some of the staff there'll be more of us there. So that could be a good place to start, and then we could take direction as to maybe that could be a project for us to do some research on in 2018.
Okay. Any other? That kind of answer your question, Tom? Or
Yes.
into the future?
Just for the new councillors that are here, when you get into recycling, in the urban centers, the bigger urban centers like Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, recycle is easy. It's easier to deal with because it's a shorter haul distance. When you get into the rural area, the recycle, it sometimes doesn't work because of the haul distances on it. It's not reasonable to recycle some of it because of the haul distance, so you've got to come up with other avenues to deal with it. And that's where these MRFs are coming in beside, like I was saying with the solid waste or the SEWA outfit, where it's a waste to energy project, which could use the material for until they get an industry put in place that'll handle it and put something out there that's useful. So it's a long road, but it's possible.
Okay, getting back to the report, is there any questions on the agriculture community and protective services? Someone cared to move the report?
I'll move to.
Scott
move
has
the
moved.
report, yes.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And Calgary Metropolitan Region Board.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring everyone up to date. I'm not quite sure how much information the new members of council have been provided on this issue. So I'm going to hand briefly that to Alan just to maybe help me understand where your level of understanding is on that Calgary Regional Growth Board.
At this point, the understanding is the regulation that's attached to the package, and that's pretty much, I would say, the extent of most of council's knowledge on that. At this point, the board has not met. I'm not sure when they're intending to meet, but I would assume it would be fairly early in the new year.
I went in last week, had breakfast or lunch with them, with the mayors anyway. And the two topics, the one bigger topic of concern for them was the CRP and what to do with all that research and stuff. See, Calgary regional plan. And yeah, they've got some stuff there and talk. That's, but there was one thing that they brought up, or it might have been brought up at Edmonton. Right now, the double majority vote, the voting structure is, nobody's really happy with it. But when we were at the one workshop up at Edmonton, the Capital Region Plan, they have the administration, the CAOs for the most part, get all the ASBs, everything that has to go to the meeting, it's vetted through that part of the organization. And then when they're happy there and that group passes it, then it moves on to the board to pass it. And there was a thought that it seems redundant, right? So why couldn't it be that board of the CIOs approve it, it meets all the conditions, well then it's done. Now if a municipality took objection to it, they would make a motion to have it punted. And that way, if you think about it, it's more fair. If Calgary, let's just go to say Calgary because they have the veto vote. If they don't like the thing, they vote no and it's lost. No matter how many municipalities like it, it's done. But if it's the other way around and they have to vote to get it out and they're the only one that wants it out, they don't win. It's still in. So I don't know if we'll get that in or not, but there's always somebody thinking. So outside of that, I can't say anything much more. Yeah, Angie?
Well, I just wanted to let you know that, so I'm the member for Wheatland County on what's called the TAG team. You'll see that acronym up there on my email to Alan as I'm updating him. So this team has been asked to meet every Friday now for full Fridays to work on the interim growth plan. So what the province has asked us to do is to come up with an interim growth plan. We're supposed to have that completed by June or July. So we're putting an RFP together. The team is putting an RFP together to hire a consultant to do this growth plan, with the TAG team supporting that consultant as best we can through research, data collection, some public consultation. But the timeline is so short, it's really quite stressful. But I'm sure you're all aware, you've had this map, so you know which part of Wheatland County is under this interim growth plan, which is, there's pros and cons to it. Well, I think we should look at it as an opportunity, and there will be challenges, no doubt about it, but I think we should look at it as an opportunity as how this can benefit Wheatland County and the landowners and that live in that area and the stakeholders that will be attracted, particularly along that West Highway 1 area. As we move forward, you will be contacted through this planning process, particularly through Alan. That's what we're putting, one of the things we're putting through in the RFP, that the consultant must have some consultation with each of the CEOs of each of the members, and yourselves will then be incorporated into that through Alan as to what you've heard from your stakeholders, landowners, because there was no consultation done with any of these landowners at all when this plan was put together, when this outline boundary was put together, which from a planning perspective, of course, is quite concerning. But the province has brought down their regulations. You've probably seen the regulations, so that's what the interim growth plan will be based on. The full plan has to be completed within 3 years. So basically what the interim plan is doing, the essential part of it is to change the form of growth in the area to support the eventual long-term growth plan. It's not, the province is not going to allow the existing type of growth to continue over the next 3+ years with no hindrance. That's not going to happen. With Wheatland County, when I'm reviewing the documents, it won't really affect us too much. In fact, it may be very beneficial. For the other member groups, such as Rocky View, Foothills, etc., it has caused a huge amount of controversy and stir, which continues in the tag team, unfortunately, but we're managing it as best we can. But if you have any information or input or etc. for me, please pass that through Alan. He'll send it on to me, and I'll bring that into the tag team as I move forward every other Friday or every Friday as we continue.
Okay, thanks. Is everyone, Scott?
Just a comment through the chair. I like your idea. I think we're in it now. There's nothing we can do about it. We make the best of it. But I wouldn't waste a whole lot of time with the group. We're trying to get something in place where you vote your way in or vote your way out. Calgary is not going to give up that authority. The government has promised them that that would be part of it. So I wouldn't waste a lot of breath on that one.
Scott?
I know it affects Tom and myself's division the most, and we just wonder where the input is from us, or when we get involved, or do we get involved, and the protocol for that.
Well, the input will be at the board level, and that's your reeve that will be attending those, and in his absence, the deputy reeve would be attending. So the reeve has attended these meetings for the last 2.5 years, and like Angie's involved in this technical group. I've been involved with the CAO group. We've expressed our concerns. Most of it's been on deaf ears. I can send you all that correspondence if you want the file. Like Angie says, like Ben says, we're in it. We got to make the best of it. And there is an opportunity with some of our communities to go to the group and say, well, this is what we want. We want servicing in Cheadle. We want servicing in Nameka or whatever it is, right? And start doing some development. If they say no, then I guess that's an impetus for us to go to the province, or for council to go to the province and say, hey, we were promised that there was going to be a benefit to Wheatland County. Where is it? So just keep that in mind, I think, so moving forward. Yeah.
At the Muni 101 that we set, I've talked to quite a few councillors from that are directly affected in Foothills and and the feeling going forward is there can be, like talking to the fellow from Beaumont, that even though the city has a veto, we have got the ability, if we can stay united as little fiefdoms under the big fiefdom's thumb, that they can't, if we stay united, and we can get a lot of what we want done. So I'm just trying to figure out the best way to keep in touch with the councillors. I appreciate that there are way too many people getting involved in, but how do we go about keeping correspondence with the councillors like that are directly affected?
I guess in the past, we've always provided the minutes or had a talk, and then we've had a couple joint meetings with all the councillors, but I don't know if that's moving forward, just what this council wants to do.
I can't speak about where, as council, where you want to go. I guess that's up to you guys where you want to go. But as far as CAOs, I've met with the town of Strathmore CAO a couple times. We met last week. We're trying to make arrangements with the new, there's not really a CAO appointed in Chestermere, but as an Eastern Front, so to speak, I hope that's a positive thing. As an Eastern Front east of Calgary, we're trying to get a united force as CAOs on common grounds. Now, we don't always have common ground necessarily with Rocky View or Foothills either. So we have to keep that in mind. We've been at the table. Glenn's been there. Ben's been there over the years. you might think that you have common ground with Foothills and Rocky View, but a lot of times you don't. So I think we need to find where our common ground is. So as CAOs, we're working through that right now. And we've met a couple times individually, one-on-one. I've met with Rocky View and Foothills about 5 times now, trying to get common fronts. And every time we meet, we find out, oh, that's not necessarily a common front. Angie's laughing because she knows how that works. So we're just trying to figure out who has common fronts with us. So in regards to that. So I encourage you to do that with your counterparts in the other municipalities from a council perspective. Because as administration, we see things maybe a little bit differently than what you guys as councillors, right? So I encourage you to do that.
Okay. Anything else?
Just to Tom and Scott's comments, a few years back, it kind of fell off when, but we did have a working group with Rocky View and 2 or 3 councillors that sat on that group, and they'd meet 2 or 3 times through the year and just talk about what they're doing and where they're doing it. Maybe we could put something together and with the rurals where they get together 2 or 3 times a year and
We got Foothills too, we share a boundary with too, that are part of. And I think it's too, in recent developments with, I don't know if you're all aware what happened up at Beaumont in the capital region. I think some of those smaller urbans are beginning to realize, you know, it's just not so rosy for them either. There's lots of opportunities for us to get together and collaborate. Alan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Council has approved the appointments for the IDPs, so I would suggest that would be the mechanism to move that forward if you want to do that. You've got 2 members appointed to each one of the IDPs with Foothills and with Rocky View. So if you want to do that, I can certainly try to arrange a meeting in the new year. I know that my counterpart in Rocky View, we've talked a couple times, and as CAOs, we want to meet first to understand what they are. We don't want to get a political storm going on with the town of Strathmore per se or Chestermere, because we don't know exactly where they stand. Right. So we want to understand where they stand first from a CAO standpoint, and then set up a meeting. So we're working towards that in the new year. So
okay. I guess when you go to these conferences and stuff, just like the other day, you see somebody, for sure go talk to them. Yeah. Scott, you have?
I see this as it's going to be ongoing for many, 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 many years. So we're going to have to embrace it and work with the neighboring communities. And this is going to be an evolving process, I think. It's not just going to stop. So we might as well get involved and try to play our best interests as much as we can.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I would just like to add something, Mr. Chairman, that members of the TAG team see Wheatland County as being in a very enviable position because you only have a portion of your area in that interim growth plan. And that is where I'm saying it is an opportunity, partly because of its location, but also because the rest of your county is not under those regulations and jurisdiction. So we have a foot in both different rules and regulations, whereas the others don't, because all of Foothills, all of Rocky View are now going to be under these regulations. So just keep that in mind when you're talking to your neighbors and your counterparts, that they're seeing Wheatland County as lucky. As I say, because you're not completely, or even all of your west side is not completely in. So the only border you have with a member is the small border with Rocky View. So your border with Foothills, etc., is a different jurisdictional
That's right.
border.
And I guess moving forward too, I know for myself, when we're sitting there talking, I would like to have a little bit of an idea how many people live in that area. And when it comes to funding and stuff, try and keep that appropriate too. So if you can kind of give me a guesstimate of that, I would appreciate it, Angie. Any other questions? Motion accept as information. Tom? information. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Angie. And I see our 11 o'clock appointments here. Very. It's a long time. So please take the podium and turn the mic on. We record all our meetings here, and we'll put them on the YouTube so you can watch.
Okay. Good morning, Your Worship, members of council, administration. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Lana Hogan, Manager, Canadian Badlands Tourism, and some of you might know Barry, President of Canadian Badlands Tourism, Mayor Brooks, President of AUMA. You get the picture? Barry wears many hats, and we appreciate having him for sure. For those of you that don't know what Canadian Badlands Tourism is, I'll give you a little bit of a history first. We have been in existence for 12 years. We have done hundreds of projects in the Canadian Badlands region. Pardon me. The region is 90,000 square kilometers, so it's a big area. We still maintain 60 shareholder members, and the largest collaborative tourism organization probably in Canada, maybe even North America. And we are proud to be involved in all of our shareholder communities and invite you at any time to call us, contact us, and connect with projects or ideas that you have. So some of the project highlights that we can boast about are the pheasant festivals that we've developed in the Canadian Badlands. The third one is going to start this year, well, in 2018 actually, in Newell County. We have the Highway 41 Festival that was this last fall in its second year, and the Stettler one was had its fourth year. Sorry, thank you, Barry. Our marketing campaign every summer is pretty amazing, and it's growing every year. We connect as much as possible with the whole area. So I gave you a handout called the Ambassadors Project Report. And this one, we can boast that this was actually nominated for an Alto Award this year. We didn't win, but we need to share that award because we do have quite a few. But it touched the regions on the second page, Lethbridge area, Newell County, and special areas in 2017. 2018 will be, other areas. And these people reach out and connect with as many partners as possible. So that is definitely an exciting piece for us. For other project highlights, you can check your handout. We've listed a whole bunch there, so I won't go through all of them. You might ask, what are the benefits of Canadian Badlands? So we'll just touch on a few of those. You're part of a collaborative organization that connects all of the communities to work together. We've had projects in the area. One of them coming up is the Ice Fishing Derby. And town of Strathmore would like to take it on, which would probably connect with Wheatland County if you're interested. If they haven't contacted you yet, they probably will be very shortly. We had our conference in Strathmore 2 years ago. We are assisting with marketing Prairie Sprinter, who is going through this region for, with tourists and tours. We have a page for you on our website, and you were contacted in April or May of this year and asked how we can assist you to get more of your information, your events, anything you'd like on there. And you can, again, call us at any time if you need help putting information on there. And you are the gateway to the Badlands from the west. You're a valuable part. If you are not connected with The website for Travel Alberta ATIS 2.0, please do so. It's got the most hits of any tourist website in Alberta for sure. And so we have the information. If you don't, if you're not connected, I would encourage you to go on there weekly. I know administration is doing that, would be the one doing that. And at this point, I am going to pass it over to President Barry Morishita and talk about the future of Canadian Badlands. Sure.
Anyway, Your Worship, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. So I'm going to just touch a little bit about what the future of the Canadian Badlands is and how important it is for municipalities to stay involved. So as we know over the years, we often talk about how tourism is another opportunity for economic development, and we've always looked at the Canadian Badlands as how do we take advantage, how do we leverage what's already here and turn it into experiential tourism. And one of the interesting things that's happened, that's evolved in the industry over the year, it's less about where you're going to go to, but what you're going to do when you get there. And what the Badlands has been promoting are these ideas that there are kind of these, generally the region is an iconic destination. So we can safely say now, 12 years after doing this, that the Canadian Badlands is a recognized region. It's a region that's marketed in Germany. It's a region that's marketed in China now, overseas, into the United States. So the Canadian Badlands themselves is a recognized region, and that will continue to happen. And it's something, if you check with Travel Alberta, they're certainly promoting. Excuse me. I know capacities in the mountain parks and stuff are at their max, and people are still looking for something else to do. And whether we kind of take it for granted a little bit, our wide open spaces, our ability to turn around and not bump into anybody when we're looking at something, our ability to take a moment to kind of just breathe the air and see this blue sky for miles and miles. These are things that we get to see every day, but a lot of people in the planet, a lot of people in the cities, a lot of people like a 2-hour flight away from us don't get to see. And certainly that's something that we've tried to take advantage of, and something that Travel Alberta has partnered to take advantage of. The next thing that happens is, so we have Dinosaur Provincial Park, you have the Tyrrell Museum, you have Writing on Stone, Head Smashed In, although Head Smashed In is just outside of our region. But you have those things that people want to go see. First Nation Indigenous tourism is a big draw for some people. But what we find is that people will come to a region and then they need that day or they need that little piece, and they find this cool little thing like the Atlas Coal Mine. They find a little experience like at Medelta, the potteries. They find a little a bed and breakfast, or they find the opportunity to ride horses, or all those things that happen. And those are the kinds of things that can be built up. And, you know, we're not fooling ourselves. They're not going to turn into a giant monetary opportunity for everybody, but they're going to supply the region with certainly seasonal employment. They're certainly going to supply the region with supplemental income opportunities, and maybe even more important, in a day and age where rural Alberta and rurals are kind of, there's a certain gap in the education process about where their food comes, why the rural is important, why those things need to be protected, why the people that live here are the best stewards of the land. They get that opportunity to experience of themselves. You know, they're in classrooms. You know, there's a generation growing up that's never been on dirt, that hasn't had lawn on it. You know, there's a disconnect, and it's an opportunity for us to build rural Alberta as well. And I think we have to educate people, and one of the best ways to educate them is to invite them into your backyard and talk to them about what we do here. And all those experiences speak to that. So that's one of the things why I think it's municipalities have to be involved and continue to stay involved in tourism. And whether it's with the Canadian Badlands or not, I just think that's a matter of fact that we have to continue on. There's a lot of misconceptions about what happens on land. There's a lot of misconceptions about where opportunities are for people that live here, and that we, and I say we in a very non-provocative way, that we somehow don't care about the environment, that we are only using the land to make profit. And we have to re-educate an entire group. And it's not just in agriculture, but it's also in energy and all those things. For 25 years, we've kind of let it slide and been happy to kind of be on our own. And tourism is a really non-confrontational, good way to communicate that to people that have no idea what goes on outside of the cities. So Lana mentioned the marketing campaign, and the marketing campaign, the regional one, was targeted to 4 big urban centers. It was targeted to Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatoon, and Regina. Again, those spheres of influence politically in our province need to be educated, and that's where we concentrated on. We had I think around just about 11% increase in leisure stays in the Canadian Badlands through our hotels this past year. So really made a big difference when they were hurting industry-wide. So when we look forward, what is the Canadian Badlands going to do going forward? One of the things we want to do is we want to build on attractions that, again, will bring people in for a day or two from those cities, from those places. We're fortunate to have a partner in Canalta Hotels who now have properties both in the Badlands in various locations and also have 2 hotels in Banff. And they're working on combinations of packages. You spend a couple of days in the mountain park, that's what gets you over. Everybody wants to see Banff and the Rockies. And then you spend a couple of days in the Badlands. And what we're trying to do in the future is to build on projects that are contained within municipal partnerships, whether they're destinations like what Kneehill County is doing with Horseshoe Canyon, whether it's what Newell County has done by getting in partnership with the provincial government to pave those 2 highways that bring them to the lakes, that bring them to Dinosaur Park off the main road. Anything like that, that's kind of where the Canadian Badlands is trying to insert itself, one, in the conversation to facilitate, and secondly, if there's opportunities to partner with municipalities over a multi-year plan to develop some of these more inviting things where something you would come out for a day or stay overnight for, those types of opportunities for us to build up. And that's what we're hoping to do in the next 2 or 3 years. So with that in mind, at our conference, there's going to be some changes, hopefully to the bylaws that allow us to to put a sustainability plan in place. I'm not sure how many of you were around. Ben, you might have been around. Glenn, you might have been when the Badlands was first started. They got some fairly significant money that made them so they didn't have to worry about money. But as we know, the grants have disappeared, and there's a sustainability factor that we have to build into our work plans. And we're hoping to put that in place over the next 3 years. And we know budgets of the province are going to be stretched, so we're looking for support to make sure we don't lose those as well. But I think the main thing about, we know that the attractions are in the counties. We know that. We know the service centers reside in the towns and the cities in the Badlands, and we need to work together to make those things work. There's a benefit there, and that development can happen at a pace that works for both people that live on the land and use the land for other purposes, but also we can talk about educating, bringing a secondary income to the area. And we can do it in a way, I think, that matches our pace and suits our purpose. At the same time, allowing people the opportunity to know what goes on in rural southern Alberta, which sometimes we're only known for a few things that sometimes we don't want to be known for. The last thing I'll leave you with is this. Sometimes measuring tourism is difficult. So I can come to you and say, you know what, Wheatland County, if you invest in this rodeo and you turn it into a one-day event and make it into a 2-day event, that we can calculate and give you some numbers, and somebody else can calculate and give you some other numbers about what the benefit is. Tourism is a very long game. But what all of these events and development do is they sustain a rural community. They allow communities to have a sense of pride in what they do and be able to share their culture and their community with others. And that's why I think municipalities have to consider more benefits than just the tourism benefits to making investments and being a part of the Canadian Badlands. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and any questions you have, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Barry. Is there any questions? Perfect. Yeah.
We would love to see you at our conference this year, 2018.
Great.
March 13th to 15th in Medicine Hat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'll be there.
Okay.
Good. And in the meantime, like I said, if you have any questions or you're looking for information, our cards are in the material, and happy to answer anything you have otherwise. But thank you very much.
Thank you. No questions? Motion to accept this information? Donna? All in favor? Carried. Thanks. Thanks for coming. I'm thinking we haven't had a break yet. Nobody's asked. Yeah, okay. Hi. And the mic's already warmed up for you.
Okay, that's great.
And just for your information, we record the meetings.
Yes.
And then we put it on the YouTube after and let everybody watch it.
Okay, that's
Okay.
wonderful. Now I'm just looking, will I have this up on this screen? Okay, I'll just look up here then. That's great. Well, it's good to see you all again. I can see that everything is great in Wheatland County because I see a lot of familiar faces, so I really appreciate that. That's awesome. So I'm Glenda Farndon. I'm the Senior Municipal Relations Liaison for STARS for all of Alberta and also serving northeastern and southeastern BC. And it's my pleasure to bring you an annual update. I want to thank you personally for continuing to be a supporter of STARS, joining the municipal initiative that you have been a part of for many years now. I did bring you a couple of impact reports, so one for council and maybe one for your reception area to let your residents know, what you are doing as a life-saving partner. So it'll highlight some different areas that, where you've been able to support us. So we'll just get started. So as a good, year in review, I want to say it, since 1985, the inception of STARS, we've now flown over 36,000 missions. It's incredible. And we currently, we are averaging 8 missions per day across the 3 provinces that we serve in the 6 bases in Western Canada, which is 3 bases in Alberta, 2 in Saskatchewan, and 1 in Manitoba. So of those 8 missions per day, 5 missions per day are in Alberta alone. As well, we do have 11 helicopters currently in the total fleet, and we do continue to provide the educational component as well. Education is a part, and it's mandatory, of everything that we do with our crews, as well as working with almost 100 transport physicians across the 3 provinces that we serve. So in addition to that, last year we were able to continue to provide critical care education to our rural communities that we serve. So we visited 161 communities, bringing that educational piece. So being able to come spend an entire day with your physicians and nurses and providing that critical care knowledge. STARS is world-renowned, known for their critical care expertise. So it only made sense to share that knowledge with those rural hospitals and our, your medical personnel that a lot of times they're the first to actually touch the patient before maybe, STARS arrives. As well, we currently are working with 3 provincial governments and more than 41,000 donors. So that it is very much a united effort that we continue to protect and preserve a service that as Albertans we are so fortunate to have and at no cost to the patient. Next, please. So, it's really important that we have all aspects, time, tools, talent. So we have the time as far as being able to have the helicopter to save time. Saving time saves lives. As well, having the tools such as the, on the right there, having the night vision goggles, so that capability to fly at night, and approximately 50% of our calls are at night. Or the fact that we now have universal blood on board. Now, when I brought you last year, I brought you kind of an overview about all the different specialized equipment and the fact that we now had blood on board, universal blood that can be accepted by anyone. Now we have it across all 3 provinces. As well, it's really important that we have the talent. In the bottom left corner, you can see we have the talent through the very edge, the pilots that have very high level hours and have that night vision capability and everything else in order to be able to answer calls like in very diverse types of situations. Or the talent in the back of the helicopter as well. again, world-renowned critical care talent and expertise, and the fact that we are able to accommodate all sizes of patients. So it's a really important factor, and again, it's a united effort. So I wanted to bring you an overview of what types of missions do we fly. It's really, I think, unknown to most of the general public that most of the calls that we fly for STARS is to answer and help the general public. So you can see more than 50% are medical emergencies, 19% motor vehicle collisions, 14% trauma-related, as well as recreational calls, 7% for those sledders and quadders out there, as well as on-site workplace at the top there, and 3% agricultural accidents. Now, these both are pointing to actual on-site emergencies. So for industry, that would be like, actual on-site of a rig, and for agricultural accidents, something that like a heart attack or stroke that's actually happened in the field, on the combine or the tractor. So there are agricultural and industry incidents within the trauma, motor vehicle collision, and medical emergencies as well. Next, please. So let's have a good look at Wheatland County now, and bring in these, keep in mind that it's not a full year for 2017, up to the end of October. So you're averaging and seeing about 2 to 3 missions every month, if we take kind of an overall annual average. So that equates to about 31 missions per year. So in dollar value, if we were just talking mission-related costs only, nothing else that entails, educational piece or base operations or dispatch and coordination, just the expenses around 31 missions per year, that would equate for your area approximately close to a $200,000 service value per year. Next, please. So it's also important, as a part of the municipal initiative, is that we also, it is a united effort with our neighbors. So in our own little corner of the world, so to speak, because we all do travel. We go into neighboring municipalities, whether it's for work or for play. We travel lots, so there could be a lot of Wheatland County residents that may have had an incident in another neighboring county, or vice versa, so it's really important that we look at what's happening in our neighborhood. So now we're seeing an average of 3 to 4 missions every week, or on a yearly average of about 191 missions per year. That's just in our little corner of the world. Next, please. Not much has changed from what I brought you last year here, as far as that STARS is fueled by generosity. We continue to grow, and we are continuing to work together to achieve success. On the expenditure side, on the right-hand side, it continues to be about 2/3 of the pie take up the aviation and medical components. And the smaller pieces of the pie continue to be, educational components, base operations, dispatch and coordination, and our administration costs are at 14%. So please keep in mind that that's well below the CRA allowable of 35%. And we work very hard and diligently to keep that in check. On the funding side, now we're currently still receiving from Alberta Health Services for 3 bases in Alberta, 20% of our funding, so roughly just over $7 million a year. These are all in thousands, which means that leaves us every year 80% to be fundraised. Of that 80%, half is generated from the STARS lottery, the calendar campaign, and our site registration program. Now, those last couple of years have been pretty tough years, and all of those components have been down. Industry suffered a lot of challenges, and so the site registration program was down. Calendars are kind of moving to an area where, a lot of people don't use calendars as much anymore. Everybody has their phone, and so, but there are still a great source of people that buy the calendar every year just to support, and also to have those valuable patient stories. The Alberta Lottery, the STARS Lottery now, last year, I don't know if you remembered that I had told you this, that Stars Home Lottery is the only lottery in Canada that has had a sellout lottery for 23 years straight. This year was our 24th year, and the very first year ever that we were threatened to not have a sellout. We appealed to every Albertan in the last hours and asked them that, thank them for continuing to support the lottery, but if they would consider to buy one more single $25 ticket, that it would be greatly helpful to us. In the last 24 hours, we sold more than $1 million in tickets. Now that is Albertans saying we care. And we came in at 97%, but in hard times, as far as we are concerned, that was a sellout. So we continue to forge ahead, and of that 80% that has to be fundraised, then we still are left with 40% or half that has to be generated from our individuals or corporate sector, and of course our municipal initiative and our municipalities that continue to be leaders. Next, please. So this is give you a kind of an idea, where are we at now with the municipal initiative? I'm proud to say that, we are now have reached 90% of all rural municipalities are giving anywhere from a $2 per capita up to $65 per capita and everything in between. So currently, the united effort along with urbans, you can see the yellow stars now, those are representing a lot of the urban municipalities that are saying they've heard, from their rural municipalities and they want to help as well. So we're getting some interest as well. You can see that Wheatland County is up and coming as far as being one of our leaders. And as far as we've had, Standard has come on board, Village of Hussar, I'm waiting to hear back from Rockyford, I'm waiting to hear back from town of Strathmore. So I did have the opportunity to present to them early on, prior to elections, so I will be checking back with them again in case I need to go back. But, and in kind of the central area, you can see that Flagstaff, they kind of rallied all of their troops now, and they have unanimous support. So it is growing, and it's something to be very proud of, that we are continuing to build on that and we are continuing to come together. So currently, we are generating just over $1.7 million annually just from the municipal initiative alone. That's something to be extremely proud of. As well, we even last year had our very first First Nation, Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation from up north. They heard through their rural municipality and invited me to come. So I'm working with them now to have an opportunity to work through the Treaty 8 nations, since that happens to be one of their leaders. Next, please. So I want to thank you again. Very important, patience is a part of every single thing that we do. And we want to thank you for your participation, because you are helping us to save lives. Like Brody, who, as you can see, from an industry accident, ended up losing both of his legs, and yet still says that we gave him the chance to live like a normal human being. And next, please. Or Stacy, who as a young girl was in a passenger in a vehicle that fell 917 feet. She suffered massive, extensive injuries and was virtually irrecognizable. Her mother had to identify her by her fingernails. Yet she had the bravery to be one of our very first lottery speakers as a very young girl up north when we opened the Grand Prairie base. And next, please. Or Gordon, who suffered a massive heart attack and says that without the helicopter and the people inside, that he would be not be here today. It's as simple as that. And these are all things that could happen to any one of us or any one of your residents, in different areas, whether it's work or play or, medical type of emergency. Next, please. So I want to thank you so much for your continued leadership and dedication. Thank you for helping us save lives. Thank you for helping us to ensure the safety and a quality of life for your residents. We appreciate that you had moved this year to a $2 per capita commitment, which equals to about 3 missions per year that you're providing for your residents out of that average 31 missions per year. But more importantly, you're helping us protect and preserve a service for all of us as Albertans. So I would like to ask you during your budget deliberations if you would kindly consider to renew your pledge at the $2 per capita. And I would like to ask you, in interest of sustainability, if you would consider a 4-year pledge that would be in conjunction with your council term. We have a lot of municipalities that prefer to go with the 4-year pledge, but we also have a lot more growing municipalities that are recognizing STARS as a part of their emergency protective services, because that is exactly who we work with directly. And so they're moving in the interest of not only simplicity and process, but also in the interest of sustainability for yourselves and for us. I'm asking if you would consider a standing motion through your protective services budget for your annual $2 per capita commitment. And with that, I would like to say I greatly appreciate, and I want to recognize and offer you a humble little bit of appreciation, and present you with your municipal initiative plaque as one of our leaders, and hopefully that you'll be proud to show that to your residents that you are helping to save lives and protect and preserve their safety.
Thanks so much.
Wonder, could we have a photo opportunity? That would be awesome. Where should we? Sure. Awesome. So I did also bring you a new calendar that's just out. This little Beckham guy, we had flown him when he was just an infant. And so he is in the calendar this year. We're very proud to have him. And also some great patient stories. So I'll leave all of this information with Alan. And of course, all my contact information, Alan has that as well. So if you ever have any questions or any concerns or anything that comes up or you need, I am your liaison. So please do not hesitate to give me a call.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions? A couple years ago, you provided us with the council with a tour of your facility.
Yes.
We have 5 new councillors for this term, so
Okay.
we'll ask them maybe if is that still available?
Yes, absolutely. If I can work with Alan to find a date that, as long as we can pick a specific date that would work, and we'll go from there, and certainly.
Okay, sure. We'll be bringing it up then in the future,
Okay, we would
I'm
be
sure.
pleased to have you.
Okay, thank you.
After all,
Thanks.
seeing is believing.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Motion accept as information. Ben has moved. All in favor? Carried.
Merry Christmas to you all.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. It's always good to see you.
Okay. Okay, we got correspondence. I think we maybe have enough time for that. Brownlee Emerging Trends, that's a day's conference, or go listen to the lawyers, give you a day's presentation. The Brownlee does one, and Reynolds Murph does one. Usually pick. Will that be coming back on a request for decision type thing, Ellen, or?
Yeah, once we get more details on it, we
Yeah.
certainly will, yeah.
And Fortis? Information on home building licenses? Electoral Boundaries Commission? Letter, Doug Black. Thank you letter from Standard Community. That's money from that grant we give them. Report from Gleason and District Library. That was all, wasn't it? Scroll to the end here. Oh, well, a letter from Airdrie City Council to this council. Only conflict I see is that Tuesday, January the 30th, and the phosphorus plan. I think that's a conflict of not agri-trans, that course, that thing up at Farm Tech, yeah. Can't go to both, I guess. You're the only one. I can try a little harder. I'm thinking if I go, or if anybody goes, I'm sure we can have a flight to go up there. It'd be a lot better than driving. Roads can be, they were bad enough here on Sunday, let alone going up there, yeah. Yeah? I'll have to think on that a little harder. Yeah. We're not that kind of democracy. No, January. Okay, well, everyone give that a strong consideration. Is there any comments from the correspondence? Members moved. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. It's in the budget right now, is it not?
Mr. Chairman, the STARS donation is in the budget, that's correct. They are providing a letter, unfortunately Glendon didn't bring it today, but they'll send it to me. Their office administrator will send it to me, and then I'll bring that back to council.
Can't hear.
So did we last year, did we look at as putting that as part of our emergency services budget?
It was included in
continually?
2017 as as emergency services, yes.
But we didn't talk about continuing it on as, into the future?
There was no multi-year commitment, no.
Okay.
No. But we've included it in the budget for 2018. So.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Tom?
Just regarding STARS, and this would be to Alan, do you have is there a counterpart of yours at Siksika? Like, do you have any correspondence? Only because they they use the service, and I don't think so I'm just wondering how we open that dialogue.
I can certainly advise them that we're making the donation. I haven't in the past, and what it's for. I can certainly encourage Glenda to get in touch with them again and see if they'll accept the presentation. But yeah, as far as a council representative, I don't know, Glenn, if you've talked to their new council members. I've met them all a year or so ago when they came in. I went down and had a meeting with some of the administrative folks and got to meet all the councilors, but I don't meet with their councils. So, but it's something that probably needs to happen, and a more open dialogue with them. I know the town of Strathmore has made efforts in the last year or two to meet with them more often. So there's a good opportunity there that we can team up with them for sure.
I don't. Yeah, I couldn't answer that. Any other questions? Amber?
It's sort of going back to the staff sergeant from Strathmore at the Munis 101 in Drumheller. And I can't remember who was talking about it, but it was part of the presentation, is that some municipal districts have developed a rural crime like task force or initiative to kind of look at a multi-faceted approach. And because it's such a sort of big issue across counties, I wasn't sure if that was something we might want to consider.
Just how did they go about that, Amber? Do you? Okay.
From my understanding, it was sort of different participants involved. So there was members at large, as well as a representative from council, or more than one, I'm not sure. And then they would collaborate with different municipalities, like perhaps for us, like relevant ones might be the town or some of the smaller municipalities that are within Wheatland County. And then also in consultation with our CMP. So it was just looking at sort of all of the factors, everything from, they were talking even about like, there was a case study, I think, out of Memphis, where economic development, education, crime prevention, more specific education in terms of like some of what Wheatland County has already done in terms of crime prevention for citizens. But just kind of looking at statistics, looking at all the initiatives that could be put together to fight crime, and then looking at what the outcomes are. And I think it was just a broader look at it. Like, I think we are doing some excellent things, but it was just more a focused group to work on that specifically, and particularly integrating. What I really liked about what Staff Sergeant O'Dwyer said is that if the people don't buy in, I hear all the time from my residents that rural crime is one of their #1 issues. But when I turn it back to them and say, what can we do about it? They don't necessarily have answers, or they don't necessarily see the initiatives that have been taken as valuable. So I just thought it might be a way to bring the different stakeholders together, kind of collaborate on some ideas, and then come up with a more kind of well-rounded plan to approach it.
And Ben, you had...
On this, but it's just a membership form for members to join the.
Next month, when all the sergeants are coming in, if you take their areas, it's much bigger than Wheatland County, right? That would be a vehicle to start going in and having something. Maybe we could bring it up then and get their thoughts on something, right? Good idea. Any other questions?
I got a question. Tom mentioned it this morning, that if Strathmore goes, like they said at the regional meeting, and does their own thing with their 13 members, the 8 members that are still tasked to the rural would still be tasked to the rural, right? That's all we're getting now, isn't it? We're not getting any of those 13 members.
I think the 24 members go where they're needed. The commanding
So if
officer.
they do their own thing, will they guarantee that the 8 go where they're needed?
That's
Because
right.
right now, you're not, in some of the areas, that's what I'm hearing is the biggest complaint, that even when they phone in, they're not getting the,
Yeah.
even with all of them supposedly going, they're not going. So it may be a benefit to us
Maybe.
if they keep their 13 and then they guarantee that those 8 will be rural.
Okay. Nothing else? We'll break for lunch. Or was there something else? Ellen had something? Okay, sorry, Ellen.